Good evening and welcome to the September 15th, 2022 County Council, Northampton County Council meeting. Mr. Cusick, will you lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Zemba, will you please call the roll?
Yes,
Mr. Brown. Here. Mr. Kuzic.
Present.
Mr. Giovanni.
Here.
Mr. Gofredo.
Here.
Mr. Heckman.
Here.
Mr. Lott. Mr. Myers.
Here.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Here.
Ms. Zirinsky. Here. All present except Mr. Lott.
Next, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of September 1st, 2022.
So be it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. Next is courtesy of the floor. Are there any individuals present? No one has signed up. Is there anybody here present who would like to speak for courtesy of the floor this evening on any matters before council? Hearing and seeing none. Mr. McClure is not here this evening. Is there a county executive report? There is not. That'll bring us to old business. First, we have the public hearing of an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Issuing a Request for Proposals Seeking Bidders to Conduct a Wage and Benefit Analysis for Northampton County." Mr. Gofredo and Giovanni introduced this ordinance at the September 1st, 2022 meeting. Are there any questions or comments from the public regarding this matter? Hearing none, is there any discussion from council? Mr. Cusick?
Yeah, just real quickly, this is something that is required by the career service regulations. We're supposed to do one from time to time, and the last time we did it was 2007, so it's more than past time that we do it. The idea is that we make sure that the wages that we offer our employees are suitable for this economic environment. You know, we have to compete for employees. That's the way it is. So it's a good thing to periodically take a look at the workforce of Northampton County and compare what we offer to what the private sector offers. Now, I know we offer better benefits, but you can't pay your rent with benefits. So we do need competitive salaries, and I think that this is the right step to take. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Myers?
Just a follow-up on this. One of our last meetings or so, we were told that we lost so many people in DHS. There's so many people missing in the Juvenile Justice Center and throughout. So with all this going on, this couldn't be a better time to find out if we're in line or we're under or we're over top. So I think it's a necessary thing for us to do.
Any other comments? Mr. Heckman?
Yeah, actually I spoke with the county executive maybe last year or the year before about this issue. I mean, I've been going through our pay scales, and I have commented, and I continue to maintain that while these were great, the layout was great when everything started, and no one knows better than I, it's now 2022, not 1982 or 92. And while wages certainly we've gone up, I think we have too many classifications and way too many steps. I've felt that for a long time. And that is a concern I've had. Frankly, personally, my own personal opinion is a lot of these, particularly some of these positions, the A step and even sometimes the B step should just be eliminated and bring people in at the C or D. I mean, so I was hesitant at first. I thought about this, but I think, you know, what Mr. Cusick said is correct, that is written. We've ignored a lot of things over the years that we don't want to do, but I believe, though, one thing I want to point out, and if you've been through some studies, I would say to employees that the expectations of a study sometimes outweigh the reality of a study. I was around when Barston was done, And I don't know how many positions were redlined. And the Personnel Appeals Board was kept busy for quite some time. Because I do think at the end, there are positions where I think the pay is fair. I really do. Having been involved in negotiations at times. But I do think that we have areas where it's lacking. And certainly, I think in certain areas and starting pay. The executive himself alluded to a fact which I had done some research on, and that Northampton County is one of the 5 wealthiest counties in the Commonwealth when it comes to income. I didn't realize we had hit that wonderful marker. So I want to put that out there that, yes, the results are going to be, it would be interesting, I'm interested in seeing the results. And I would say these are steps. It doesn't mean it's automatically going to be implemented if we do it. It's just that I think it's fair to say we'd like to see it. And also the benefit package was something but I'm from an era when that was pounded into my head. You better have a savings for retirement. You better have a pension, benefits, because when the next depression hits, you won't have to sit on the street with a sign. And so, but I have a foot in the modern era too, and I talk to a lot of young people or people who get new jobs, and they're not really into that as much as it was at one time, even though I still think it's important. Because this isn't the 50s, 60s, or 70s anymore. I also believe that what Mr. was said about competing with the private, but even with the private, it doesn't matter who has a job at the county. Everybody who works at the county has an important job. Now, I had a lot of jobs in my life. If I stacked film cartridges wrong, the world didn't end. I get yelled at, I do it differently. If I put too much sauce on the steak sandwich, they'd yell at me and saying, "You're wasting our money, don't put so much sauce on the steak sandwich." But nobody got hurt. But here, even at the end, any level job at the county has repercussions because you deal with public and public issues. These are all important jobs. If you screw up, it's somebody's life. I was talking to Mr. Giovanni about this. If you make a mistake in inputting information, you're affecting somebody's life. It's all important. We are a service level government. And one of the best things is experience. I mean, this county, like any government, I don't pick on the county, elected officials are passing clouds. We come, we go. And the county continues. No one is irreplaceable who's been elected. I don't burst any bubbles, but it's just facts. But we really, the county runs on its staff, always has, probably always will. So not only do we have to attract people, but we have to attract people who see this as something that they can get a good starting rate and that they can advance faster than a sporadically applied set of steps, which when they were first said, it was like everybody would get a step every year if you got a satisfactory evaluation. Well, that all changed some years back. And I don't even know why we bother with them anymore. And I realize this could create some issues with the unions, but that's the job to do. And I know if we do things for people coming in at the lowest level, the word is that, well, when you negotiate, people up at the higher levels will want more money. Well, in management, sometimes you just have to put your foot down and say no. I mean, just because somebody at the lower level can come in at this rate, that teachers had that issue in the 80s. Well, if I come in, and maybe some teachers remember, you're giving this higher wage to somebody. I had to work 8 years to get that. That was life. I mean, it is what it is. So I became very interested in what a study in 2022 Northampton County would look like, mainly because of the things I mentioned. The rents, we've become so expensive. This county has become an expensive place to live. It's amazing if I look back over the years. And I just don't know right now if we are, and this has nothing to do with administrations or anybody, as an employer, as a county, if we are doing enough to recruit good people, and people that'll stay and do the kind of job that they have to do, that we're required to do as a public entity. So I'm going to support this and see what it shows. Thank you.
Any comment? I just have a few. I just want to point out some facts about this. This was originally passed in December to allocate money to be able to do this. And it was, there was a resolution that you have attached that was passed in April to create the RFP. The committee, the governance committee met and reviewed and worked on the basic outline of the RFP, and our staff has been working diligently on it. And then in the summer, met with several roadblocks in the ability to complete this. So I wish that just having a resolution alone would be enough to be able to enable the work to get done, but it has not come to bear, so that's why we're at this point. Also, my understanding is, and I didn't even know this, that there's something in the administrative code that human services should be reviewing this pay level on a biannual basis, and they haven't been. COVID notwithstanding, there are people that have, been since 2007 supposed to be doing this, and we have nothing. So I think there's no better time like now to do this. And I do not see this as a waste of any kind of money, because if we can't invest money in our own employees, our employees provide core services for this county, and we should be investing in them. So I'm going to be supporting this matter. Is there any other comments or questions? Ms. Zirinsky and then Mr.
So this RFP is we're only trying to get bids for it. What happens if the bids exceed the amount that's already been allocated for it? Do we'll have to go back then and reallocate funds because we've already allocated the fund for them? Is that correct?
We would not accept a bid that's over that amount, because we allocated an amount to be able to do 2 studies, the second of which we're on, and so is on here tonight. So we aren't looking to spend all of the money in one place, but we are looking to see who can come in and offer us a bid to be able to do a reasonable
The study
pay
in our
study.
budget? Okay.
Yeah. And that it doesn't necessarily need to be, and I think we've discussed this in committee, anybody else who met on the committee, we don't need to reclassify every job. We don't want to start at the beginning, because that work's already been done. If there's any really egregious areas that don't match what already exists, we could take a look at those few items. But for the most part, it's comparing our county to comparable Class 3 counties, this demographic, this area, and see if the wages line up.
Right, but we don't have any bids. We're just going out for bids.
This is
seeing what we
just to
have.
get the
Got it.
RFP done, because
Yeah, I
we
just
have
wanna make
not
sure
been able
everybody-
to.
Right,
break
I just
through.
want to make sure that everybody knows that, given the conversation that has already occurred, that we don't have a study in front of us. So we're just getting bids for the study, and then we can make some decisions.
Right.
Okay. No harm in this.
Mr. Myers?
Oh, no, I got nothing to say.
Anyone else?
Not now.
Okay, call for the vote.
Mr. Gofredo?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Brown? Yes. Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Thanks. Next, we have the public hearing of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance issuing a request for proposals seeking bidders to conduct a comprehensive operational study of Graysdell Nursing Home. Mr. Myers and Cusick introduced this ordinance at the September 1st, 2022 meeting. Are there any questions or comments from the public? Seeing and hearing none, discussion from council. Mr. Myers.
Since I'm one of the sponsors on this, and it looks like there's some opposition that we're wasting taxpayers' money on this that's seen to hit the editorial, I feel I need to address the issue that, just like the one we just did, we should indeed investigate and see what's going on, and if there's any improvements that we can make it. To simply say that things are looking up and everything is rosy is foolish. We shouldn't look at this thing through rose-colored glasses and think everything's right, because evidently it isn't. And that goes throughout the county. I mean, come on, we're here to do a job. And our job is to check and make sure we're doing the right thing. And I think going through Graysdell to make sure that we have things, because there were things that happened, and even to members of this council, that were affected by it. So I'm more for going in and doing whatever we need to do to make sure we're right on point and not just taking it for what one person says.
Mr. Gafredo?
I think it should be noted, for all the reasons why the pay study for countywide employees is important, I think that applies to Graysdale. And although we are doing better with PPD, we are still relying pretty heavily on staffing agencies. So I know we do pay those staffing agencies per nurse more than what we pay our own nurses. And I think we should be trying to solve the problem of being able to attract and hire nurses permanently instead of just relying on staffing nurses to fill the PPD requirements.
Mr. Cusick?
Yeah, I would agree with that point, and I would just add, one of the questions that I have is, what's the right census? We have a capacity of 688, but that involves putting 4 people in a room with no private bathroom. That is no longer an industry standard. So the question is, should we be moving towards something that's more industry standard, where we have 2 patients or residents to a room and a private bathroom? And what would that cost? I'd really like to know that. So, I mean, for me, that's the biggest question. I do agree with Mr. McClure that we have somewhat turned the corner, but that's been the result of pouring in federal money. Now, that spigot may turn off, and if we wind up in a situation like we were at one point where we were running $5 or $6 million deficits, you know, just saying that we're turning the corner is not enough. I mean, I was here when the IGT stopped, the intergovernmental transfer. And in addition to that, the Medicaid reimbursement rate stopped going up. So we got hit with a double whammy. You know, at one point, the vast majority of counties had nursing homes. By the end of this year, it'll be down to just 15. So it's important that council take a look and use its oversight function. And none of us are experts. I think we should hire one. I think we should answer those questions. And like I said, the one I'm particularly interested in, what's the proper census? Because we're doing well with a much different census than we've had in the past. Thank you.
Looking at some of the deliverables here, and I just want to know why, like, the state already does some of this work in reporting on, like, why we have certain stars. The staff reports all the time about the census and other operational aspects. When you're talking about developing and prepare the implementation of a clear plan to ensure that residents' needs are met, review financial management oversight, review aspects of building and revenue, ensure that the administrative team operates in a clear and sensible manner, ensure that Graysdale is fully utilizing the services available to residents, ensure that the staff needs are met, review any marketing plans, review basic wage rate. That seems like a duplication of the study that we already have put out. Reviewing areas of process, wound care. Isn't that what they go through when they get their star ratings, when the Department of Health comes in? I'm just asking, because it seems like a lot of this, Graysdale has turned a corner, and I just would like to think that the staff there is reporting as they should.
Mr. Myers?
Are you objecting to us doing this?
I'm not necessarily objecting. I mean, we're only going out for bids, but I'm just wondering what the necessity of these deliverables is.
Isn't it our job to make sure the place is operational and doing it at the correct capacity? Yes or no?
Oh, I'm not going to say no, but I'm saying hasn't that been delivered to us every meeting that Human Services meets when we get reports? Or are you trying to say you want somebody to independently evaluate it just to be sure?
That's not a bad idea.
And how much was allocated towards this already?
$400,000
both.
was allocated for both, and a small portion of that for
Yeah, the data.
repairs
the
in this room,
yeah.
that was literally
IT stuff.
nothing. Mr. Hackman?
Oh, wait, she's not.
I'm sorry, Ms. Rinsky, are you finished? You still?
Well, no, I just trying to have a conversation about this so I can like fully wrap my head around it, because I know that we get these reports all the time. I know that there are strategies in place, and I know that there have been reports about increase in stars, reports about what the Department of Health has given us. And that seems to be an entity that is outside of Graysdale itself reporting on it. So I'm wondering why we need another party to report. I'm just asking.
Mr. Brown?
I think my answer to that would be this body has approved over $15 million to be invested into this facility over the course of the past year and a half. A lot of major changes going on. You're only operating at roughly, a significant sense is lower than what the possibility for the building might be. And to Mr. Cusick's point, what is that? When I was executive, I did the regression. I couldn't find that sweet spot with that. So I think it would be important, especially with the money that is being committed, major changes being made, that it takes an independent view to either confirm what the Department of State is or the Department of Health is telling us that it is there, or before all that money gets spent, are there some reallocations of those funds that might be better leveraged to really get the facility to the track that I think we need it to be.
Also, where this is going to be able to assist us is more of a deep dive into the workings of Graysdale. When the Department of Health comes in, they're going to audit for safety violations or anything with the operation side of it, but we're not going to be able to tell us how to run it better from a county side. So as somebody who's not a specialist in healthcare, I have no idea how to run a nursing home personally. I think having somebody who specializes in this do a deep dive, tell us what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, how our pay matches up with other counties. These are all areas where we won't be able to get that from the state. And I think Graysdale is the biggest line item as far as departments go. And I think we'd be foolish not to take advantage of, like Mr. Brown said, we've invested $15 million just this year alone. Let's make sure we're spending it wisely. And if we see any areas, now would be the time to draw attention to it.
Yes.
And actually, as often happens, Mr. Cusick, I sort of walk over each other's lines sometimes. It's just from having been around, I guess. At the meeting of 7/22, the Human Service Committee, the census was 396 with 292 beds open and 282 referrals. In August, they were admitting 1 to 2 people a day. So based on that, where we're at now, we should have at least 30 to 60 new residents, not counting any discharges, deaths, leaving, whatever. We have a total census still of 688 that we could have. And a question I've asked for quite a while has been, I don't think we need a 688-bed facility anymore. I think those days are past. But we do have right now 396 residents, and that's what they are, they're residents. This is their home, and we have a very strong responsibility to them to ensure their care, their safety, above and beyond any other considerations, political or otherwise. And my question has been, if it's not 688, what is the, as it was mentioned, the sweet spot? I've had a lot of discussion around it, and I think they're doing a great job out there. First of all, I was thinking of actually tabling this till the end of the year, because I agree when the executive said, give it time, because we put 15 million. I was more concerned with the wage study overall. because as far as the Graysdell. But I think to say, we put a lot into these RFPs. It doesn't mean, for example, we may not get any takers. I think the RFP, the amounts we're talking about, for the wage especially, I don't know if we can get somebody to come in and do it for 200. I don't know if we do it for 400. So we may not be putting enough money out there, but we'll find out. And the other thing is, they'll also tell us if it's too wide a net or too big a net that we're looking for, that we can't do it for that, but we can do A, B, C, D, and E. It's a process. I think it's important to point this out. It's a process. It's not a do or die issue. So I think they've been doing a good job. I really do. I think that Jen's come in, they've given us great reports. It is true that federal money has been pumped into this place. I don't know how long that's going to last. I think we're on the right track, but I'm not sure yet. I'm concerned about where we're going to go. I didn't think the feds were going to come in eventually and make us have some ridiculous PPD number or something, because people in Washington and even Harrisburg say all kinds of stuff. It's part of their job. But then somebody who knows what they're doing says, you can't do that. This won't work or that won't work. So that worked out fine. But again, we're at half our capacity, and we really have been sort of hanging there. And that, I don't know how well that is going to bode for that size facility going forward. I have always said I don't have a line in the sand for funding. We give money, county dollars go to a lot of places in this county, and I don't know where all of a sudden Graysdale was said, well, you have to pay for yourself. I'm not in that school of thought. So I don't have a line yet where I'd say I don't want to spend any more money, but I need more information, and I haven't gotten that information to date. I mean, I'm getting numbers, but the numbers that are important to me, I haven't seen. So maybe it's time somebody looks at it and says, okay, we crunched the numbers, and here's where you have to be. I don't think it's an indictment of anybody at Graysdale. I mean, when I was a director, I asked the controller at the time to come in and do an audit, a performance audit on one of my divisions, because I needed to get an independent view. And controllers have done that over the years. Council, they've come in and they've said, hey, I'm doing a performance audit on this, that, or the other thing. Not because the person asked for it, but somebody brought it up, and the controller has the right to do that. So, I mean, to me, it's like an audit. We're paying for it, but I think it's important. It's important to get a sense of where we're at and what the future looks like. The reports have been coming in. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't necessarily forecast where we may be going, and that I'm concerned about. That's all.
Can I? So I guess my issue is that with the deliverables, we're evaluating the performance, but nothing in the deliverables says that anybody's going to consult us about how to make it better. They're going to deliver data to tell us what we're doing, which is already what the Department of Health and we do with the STARS all the time. So I guess part of this RFP should be some sort of consultation with somebody who could discuss how to make it better, given the data that we have. Do you see what I'm saying?
I think you're taking a very discrete point and magnifying that and not looking at the rest of it. We are asking for several things, not just exclusively that. We asked a comprehensive final report. There's a lot in this. And part of the dilemma that we've had is that our staff has asked for some support and some refinement from procurement, and they haven't been able to get that. So why it's sitting here as an ordinance is so that we can get the support internally from our offices to make sure that we are asking the right questions and asking for the right things. But overall, we want to look at the operational study. I worked I ran a small program in a hospital, and I had 4 or 5 people come to survey me at any given time, and all looking for different things. So what we're asking for is to take this piece and this piece and this piece and have an independent person come and evaluate all of that. I'm not asking them to just replicate what DHS does, because DHS is looking for what they're looking for, and somebody else is coming in and looking for their pieces. And I agree with my colleagues. I think we need to see if the rooms are satisfactory, if the staffing levels are correct, are there other things we could be doing? Is there some creative thing that we're missing? It's not here to bash the staff in any way, but sometimes you need somebody from the outside without a vested interest to look at it and give a clear and objective point of view. And that's what I'm hoping to gain from this, that it's an opportunity for somebody to come in and say, here's what other people are doing, here's what you might consider. Yeah, maybe you do need to lower the census permanently. No, keep it up, and if you want to keep it up, here's how you should do that. The other thing is we've talked about getting it back, and I agree with some of my colleagues. We don't spend a lot of time talking about the future and where it could go and how we could enhance it in the future. So I think there's opportunities there that we're missing. But it's not a black and white issue. We've already done this, so why are we doing it again? No, we're doing it with an independent lens. Nobody here wants to close the place. That's been discussed. And again, this was already passed. It just needs to be passed as an ordinance now to be able to get it done. Mr. Heckman.
Just a reference point. Years ago, we had the Zimmett report. It's probably still floating around somewhere. As director, I asked them to come in. I paid them to come in and look at our nursing home because, as Mr. Cusick was pointing out, things were changing. Our rates were freezing. The private homes were lobbying hard, and they were getting preferential treatment over public homes. The IGT was shaky and getting more shaky. And I got most pushback from the administrators who were at Graysdell at the time. They didn't want to cooperate with them. They end ran and came to council members. I mean, I don't know if Mr. Cusick was on at the time, but he may have gotten a phone call too. They said, you've got to stop this. You've got to stop this. He's going to destroy Graysdell. Well, I didn't destroy Graysdell. What I found out was, for example, that one thing I didn't realize was we were not taking advantage of our therapeutic, our outpatient, for terminology, but you come in and you get therapy. It's not recreational, it's rehab. Thank you, Mr. John. Thank you. You took a spot that's dead and you opened it up. Rehab. We weren't doing it. And I went and I said, why aren't we doing this? You charge, you get that off of Medicare. Medicare's, I'm going to say it, it's a gold mine compared to Medicaid. And they said, well, we just never felt like we wanted to do it. We think it's an, and it's like, think differently. I mean, we are sitting on the edge of a knife at times. We need this to stay open. These people that are coming here aren't going to be accepted by some nursing homes. They just won't be, because of the mental health issues, because of the health combination of different health issues. So I want to say as strongly as I can that this has nothing to do with how anybody's running the home now, or that, oh, by voting for this, you're opposed to this, that, or the other. I need to feel that we've been treading water because of COVID. Everybody has. But now we're coming out of that, and we need to have solid plans. And I'm glad we gave money to Graysdale, the $50 million. I hope it works out. But I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have another set of eyes. As I said, controllers have done this for years. Even when they're not asked to do it, they've come in and done a performance audit. Like, how are you doing? So there you go. I mean, that's my feeling on it. I don't see any harm. The least we should do is no harm, as they say. And I don't think we're doing any harm to anyone here. And if we don't like what they say and they give their report, then you can say we burned money. I don't know, whatever
Well,
you
it's
want
only
to.
bids right now, anyway. It's only bids.
That's right, it's only bids.
now,
We don't know
anyway.
what we're going to get, if anything.
My concern, or my comment was just that I hope if this performance evaluation goes through, that the data won't necessarily just be a duplication of DOH, and that the consultant will add value by creating some sort of format for some quantifiable way to improve. I didn't see that in the deliverables, and that's, if it's there, well, then that's awesome. But I think that when you have just the performance evaluation, that it has to take it a step further and lead to how is it that we could improve things. And I get that if you're living in a bubble and you're only seeing what you're seeing every day, it's good to get outside the bubble. And, we'll see what bids we get, right?
Yeah.
And I do think that Graysdale is important. I don't want anybody to get the feeling that I don't recognize the value of Graysdale in our community, because I know that we take care of the people that no one else will.
Right. No, but I think that we are all 100% united in that thought, and it has been intimated at times that we are not, and that we want it to fail, and that is just ludicrous, in my opinion. Not from you, but I just hear it. Well, we want to see it die. No. Why do we spend so much time talking about it and investigating it and looking at it? Because we want it to survive. Is there any other comment? Mr. Cusick?
Just to follow up, we did a similar study back shortly after the referendum. And it was absolutely played a key role in reducing the budget deficits that we were running. It was $5 or $6 million annually, to the point where during Mr. Brown's administration, it turned into a surplus. We've relied on federal money. That's not always going to be there. So we're going to need a set of eyes to do something similar, so we don't fall back into that situation again. And that's my hope, because I respect the will of the voters, and they chose to keep it, and I believe it's our job to do the best we can, both fiscally and taking care of people. And that's what I intend to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Call for the vote.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Next, we have a public hearing of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance providing for the compensation of elected officials in the county of Northampton, County Controller. Ms. Zirinsky and Mr. Myers introduced this ordinance at the September 1st, 2022 meeting. Are there any questions or comments from the public? Is there any discussion from council?
Is this the controller?
This is Controller, County Controller.
Yeah, I was running the numbers, percentages, and I think the raise for the controller is somewhere around 20,000. I mean, I think it should be paid more. I was just wondering, I guess this would go in line with the others. Where did these numbers come from? Did anybody do any, look at other areas, like other places? Well, no, I mean,
Yes.
okay.
It's my understanding that we looked at other third-class counties, and this is comparable and in line.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the controller getting 85,000 a year. That's fine. I just was curious. Thank you.
Any other comments? I just want to point out again that council has already voted on this, and it's being introduced again. Apparently, there's some concern about how it was done the first time, so in the spirit of getting it done so that the next controller knows what they're getting paid, I will support it. Any other comments, discussion? Call for the vote.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo?
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Next, we have a public hearing of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance providing for the compensation of elected officials in the county of Northampton, County Council. Mr. Myers and Giovanni introduced this ordinance September 1st, 2022 meeting. Any questions or comments from public? Discussion from council?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with what you said, Madam Chairman. I know we were told if this ended up going to court, we'd lose for sure, and I don't know, huh? I heard that, as Ms. Hefner once said, she heard something. I heard that if the executive didn't want us, didn't feel we handled the legislation correctly. We're the legislative body. We decide how legislation is handled. I don't tell the administration how to go in and negotiate a contract. I don't think we necessarily would have lost. Our solicitor didn't think we necessarily would have lost. But having said that, given what we just did with our studies, I think that is extremely important. I don't feel like wasting time arguing over, you have this legislative power, you don't have this legislative power. It's almost silly. So, I mean, there's bigger fish to fry than egos, either here or down there. So the thing is, I'm going to support, and since we did vote, if we hadn't voted to do the pay study, I never would have supported this. I mean, you can't, talk about slap in the face. You know, we want more money for all the elected officials, but you people can just hang around and wait. So thank God we did that. But I mean, again, this is a 30% raise from 95 to 12.5. I know the argument's been that you'll attract better people, which doesn't say much about us, and they'll run for office, whether it's executive, county council. I've never had I don't know anybody that had their arm twisted to run for anything. I mean, and I think there is a public service in this. I mean, there really is part of a public service. I can't get around that. So this has been difficult. I'm not going to be the usual difficult person on this. If council so desires, the majority, I guess, you know, it's a 30% raise. I think that's a big ask, but fine, I'll support it. I'm just concerned with some of the numbers. That's all. I'm finished.
Mr. Gafredo?
I'm glad we did the controller. I thought personally the controller's rate was lower than a person that's qualified for that job. Now, as far as council and the next with the executive, like you said, this is a 30% raise. And in a time when everybody in the county has been coming in here all year long, complaining about pay, now we're doing a pay study, I just think the optics are bad. I don't think we should be taking any raise, because at the end of the day, we could justify this job. This job takes a lot of time. I don't think any of us here are for the money. And I don't think the additional money is going to be able to afford me anything special in particular. And if I keep my existing rate, and this isn't for us. This is for the next people to come in. But I think it's arbitrary. I think it's optics are almost more important at this time. And I don't think we should be the first ones to get the raises. I think we should let the pay study come back, see what other counties are getting paid, and we should address it then. So I won't support it at this time. I do think that the controller needed the raise, but as far as the council and the executive go, I'm going to be voting no.
Any comments? This was not an arbitrary decision back when we looked at this the last time we voted yes for it. I did a study of all third-class counties, and I also did a study of all counties that had home rule and what their salaries were. And we were nowhere near. Now, granted, other people are part-time as well, so, you know, I just looked at what other counties are making. Some are making 20, some are making 30 to do the same thing for the same amount of time that we are. So I thought this was fair and reasonable and, you know,
Madam Chair.
and not out of the league or range to be, you know, excessive. Because no, I don't think you need $30,000 to do this job at this level of time that we spend. Mr. Heckman?
I forgot, you did reference this in the past, that you did look into this issue very, very deep as far as money goes and all that. So, I mean, for me, I'm satisfied with all the adulation I get from the public wherever I go somewhere. So, I mean, you know, that's paying in and of itself sometimes. But anyway, so yeah, I forgot about the fact that you did do a lot of research. Thanks.
The only thing that I would be willing to consider if we wanted to consider an amendment, because some people here, like right now, nobody here on this council gets this money. Anyone who was reelected in 2024 will. If you'd like to extend it out to 2026, so that way nobody here is potentially getting any money anytime soon and keep it in line with the other two offices, that's your choice, but, you know. Yes, Ms. Zirinsky.
I believe I voted no on this the first time because I felt like this was arbitrary, and I also thought that it should be figured out how much this should actually be allocated. So I'm going to vote no again, the same way I did before.
Any other comments? Call for the vote.
Mr. Myers,
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni,
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner,
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky,
No.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic,
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo,
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, no.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 6-2.
You did that last time, Mr. Gofredo.
Gotta watch that.
Yeah, we'll catch you again. We'll be back. Last, we have the public hearing of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance providing for compensation of elected officials in the county of Northampton. County Executive, Mr. Myers and Cusick, introduced this ordinance at the September 1st, 2022 meeting. Are there questions or comments from the public? There's discussion from council.
I just feel that if we bump this up, that we can get a better quality of person than we've had at one point. You know, the job itself is really underpaid compared to what is required to run an organization this large. So that's my reason why I think it's awfully important that we make this. I'm going to vote for it because I think the person who's doing the job needs to be paid, but needs to be rewarded. I don't know how I want to put this. I just think it's important. And yes, when the study comes back on the rest of the employees, we're going to just see just how underpaid some of our people are. Some of our people don't even make $30,000 a year.
Mr. Cusick?
So at the end of Mr. McClure's term, this salary will have been the same for 16 years. So I think that's something to keep in mind. And I think when we compare it to some other quote-unquote full-time elected officials, I just read somewhere that next year a state representative is going to start at over $104,000 because they get automatic cost of living increases. And on top of that, they get a per diem every time they drive out to Harrisburg. They get a couple $100 or something on top of that. And what do they oversee? A staff of like 5 people in their office? The county executive oversees a $500 million budget and 200 times as many people as a state representative. Surely the compensation should increase for the responsibilities of the office. And I think the other thing to look at is, and I'm not going to point people out per se, but look at the salaries of the cabinet positions. The county executive is making significantly less than many of his cabinet officials. So at the very least, he should be on par or above the people that work directly underneath him. So I think that this salary should increase, and I'm hopeful that it will attract some more qualified candidates to run next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I have a
Mr.
comment.
Giovanni?
I agree with Mr. Kusick. The county exec's pay in this county is number 50 on the list of pays, and I think that's really absurd. He has a lot of responsibility. He got oversee a lot of things, so I think we should move him up to the pay scale a little bit, not be number 50 on the pay scales of county employees. So that's my thought. So I will vote for it.
Thank you. And again, when I looked at this previously, I did do a cost comparison of other counties, and this is kind of in the middle or closer to the top, but other administrator for Luzerne County gets more than this sum of money, and they're just an administrator. They're not even a full county executive. So It didn't come from the vapors.
Vapors.
Came from a paper. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry. Okay. I'm not even going to venture into we'll get better people. I've already. I want to see how that's written up. But anyway, all right, this one's a 40% increase. Yeah, I was running the numbers on all of these, 35 grand more. Mr. Goffredo, made very good points too. I mean, we have quasi-governmental officials out there that make well over six figures. I sort of not thrilled with that in many cases. We've got people in this county who are struggling at this point to hang on to their houses and to hang on to their cars. And I mean, we talked about that with the wages and starting wages here with some of them. I mean, rent. And I have people coming up, some of these quasi-officials come up from these agencies and groups and say, the average salary in this county is 80,000 or 70, and I'm just ready to fall off the back of my chair. We've got a fair amount of people around here making 30, 40,000 barely, and they've got to rent a place, one bedroom, 1,800 to 2,000 a month, a car. Good luck. I mean, when I was younger, the ratio was much closer. I mean, Lord knows I didn't make a lot of money out in the 70s, late 70s, but I was able to buy a house. I was able to get a car. And I was even able to get a mortgage even when mortgage rates were double digits. So it's just, John mentioned optics, and I know optics are used in races. You don't want to look at, but the optics we're doing tonight, I'm sort of upset with. Do I think the executive should make more money? I think we could pay them more because it's an important job, no question about it. Am I going to try and say we should keep them up with this directors have always made more, for the most part, than executives. But they're not running for anything. That's their job. He's sort of, or she, as the case may be, is sort of the overseer. But and I know you did the research, Ms. Hefner, but to me, a 40% increase for going from 85 to 120 is a huge jump, regardless of what anybody else is doing. Six figures is fine, but that's a big chunk of money. When we have, and we know because we get the calls and talk to people, that people who are very concerned with their pay and what's going on. So I've been on the fence about this one for quite some time. And honestly, sitting here now talking, I don't even know how I'm going to vote until my name's called. But I just wanted to express my concern that I think it may be warranted, but I just don't know if it's the right move. That's all.
Is there anyone who would entertain an amendment to the amount? Mr. Goffredo?
To what?
I don't know if you're asking for my suggestion of that amount or if I would
Again, it can be passed, it can be not, it can be
I
amended.
do think that Mr. Cusick brought up a lot of good points. The fact that the pay has been raised in 16 years, I think that would justify a large increase because obviously you haven't kept up with inflation for 16 years. But at the same time, I think a number around 100,000 makes it a little bit more appetizing to me.
Would you go for 105?
But I don't want to quibble over the dollar amount. I think 120 felt high initially, and then I went with my instincts of it just didn't feel like the right time with everything we've been seeing for the last 8-9 months with everybody needing more money. Mr. or whoever the executive is runs for that position. They run for an elected position, and that position grants you a lot of notoriety, press, whether it's good or bad, but you put yourself in that position. You volunteer for it. So yes, can we attract better people? Sure, we could also attract people that are looking for money. So that's neither here nor there in my personal opinion. If it was around 100, I think I'd be able to support it. So that's just my personal take.
May I offer an amendment, Madam President? I'd like to offer an amendment to amend the raise to $105,000.
Is there a second to that amendment?
I'll second it.
Mr.
I'll
Cusick?
second it.
Or
Doesn't matter.
Mr. Goffredo? Okay.
All right. Discussion.
Discussion on the amendment.
I just want to know where the study is that determined that wage. Because what I heard in the discussion is that this wage was determined by evaluating other executives in other counties. So where is that? And why are we just arbitrarily determining what the wage should be now?
It was in a notebook that I wrote down numbers by looking up, and I asked Ms. Shefnisky to call and do the research. And so we looked at all the numbers and we gathered the data ourselves. We did the study.
So where is that study right now?
Some notebook on my desk. You want me to go dig around and find it? I mean, like, seriously, like, I could look it up for the,
Because, well, my
but
recollection.
I did the homework.
Sure. So when my recollection of this was that this ordinance originally started out as $100,000, and we made it 120. And now we're going back and saying it should be 105. I'm just saying, I think that these numbers are pretty arbitrarily being thrown around, and that if we really want to do this, you should put this study not in a notebook, but like on a spreadsheet, and let's actually look at the numbers and determine what this number should be.
Well,
I'm just-
anybody could go look up you could do it yourself too. I did it myself, and that's why I offered it, because that was the data that I wanted to gather when it was proposed at 100. Now, council has the right to make any amendment. Council has the right to do this. It's your job.
Sure does. I understand. I just,
I mean, I think part of it was also based on the fact that we looked at the salaries of his cabinet. We looked at what the top person in the county made, and look where the executive fell in comparison to his cabinet, and I put it above all of them, because I think 105 or 110 was his top person. And so again, if whoever that person is, I thought that they should be the top salary. But at this point, if people want to offer 105, I'm not gonna,
I guess my point is, if we're doing a wage study, are those cabinet positions not going to change as well? Are we not going to evaluate all the positions in the county? And then wouldn't this number change? I mean, yeah, we could make another ordinance to change it again. There's nothing to say that that wouldn't happen.
I think it's apples and oranges. I think the wage study is really looking at the step and the guides, and all of those salaries are arbitrary. Those salaries were determined by the county executive when he hired those folks. So, no, those aren't necessarily positions that we're targeting in the wage study.
So those won't be included.
I'm not looking to focus on those. I'm looking to focus at the general members of the workforce. I'm looking at the lowest paid and on up, and I'm looking at career services, because we can't touch union positions. We can only look at career services. There's a whole lot of other people, because county executive can offer raises at will to any of his direct employees. Just like we can offer these raises now.
But the state wages that Mr. Cusick was talking about, they're tied to an index. This is never going to be tied to an index according to this, so it's always going to be falling under whatever it should be paid, because it has to be made through council to increase. So this could, I just think that maybe we should look at it.
Excuse me.
Mr. Myers.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Let me remind everybody, last time we did this, it was vetoed. It's going to get vetoed again. So no matter what we come up with, the county exec's going to veto it again. So elaborating on it one way or another doesn't make any sense, because we know he's going to veto it again. He made it crystal clear. So let's move with it one way or another.
I understand.
Yeah, this was the amendment.
Any other discussion on the
Yeah,
amendment?
since I made
Yes,
it.
sir.
I just wanted to say that, yeah, I don't compare any of this to the employee pay study. That's important. Not to say this isn't important, but what the state did was horrible, And they were ripped for it at the time, and of course, the incumbents kept their jobs, even though it was everybody yelling at the other guy. They get their raises automatically. It was called the land of the midnight pay raises. And I think some people remember that. And for elected officials to do that, I think it's cowardly. I think it's in poor faith with the public, who may have to go in and beg to see money come to them. well, you're sliding these things in under the rug. I don't have a problem with voting on raises for elected officials. That's what we do as far as numbers. I applaud the work, excuse me, the work that was done by Madam President. But ultimately, over the years, these numbers have just been proposed. It doesn't always, it's not real hard research on these. I'm more concerned with harder research out there. This has been this since for 20 years. We should probably bump it up a bit. And my feeling was, I wasn't comfortable. Will somebody eventually make more than him? Probably. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, again, I keep going back to it. I don't know of one person who had their arm twisted and said, if you don't run for this, the county's going to fall apart. So up here or down there. So I just thought 40% was one big hop at one time. And maybe some future council will say, you know what? That was a stupid thing for him to say. We're going to raise it more. But I'm comfortable with this. He's getting his 6 figures if it passes and if a veto gets overridden or whatever. But keep in mind, Mr. Myers is right. We've already done all this. And I'm just agreeing to do it again to avoid problems. So that being said, that's all I have. I don't have a real scientific reason for doing it other than referring to Mr. Goffredo's very clear comments earlier.
Mr. Heckman, can I ask what percentage the county controller salary was, since you did that homework this week?
Yes. Actually, I just did it sitting at my desk. If I'm wrong, I apologize. A math major can come in. I think I might have not done the percentage. I think I ended up just looking at it was 20,000 more, and then I decided to do percentages. So 65 to 85, John, what's the percentage increase?
20 divided by 65.
Well, you should be able to do that in your head.
It's a little
You're the
more,
hard
little more
science
than
guy.
30%.
A little more than 30%. But to me, the 65,000 really is low. I mean, we have a former controller sitting in the building here in the room. And I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into that job. And I do think, not scientifically, just observationally.
Now it's a full-time position.
It's a full-time position where there's a lot of work. I think it was well worth the raise. The executive, I think he deserves a raise, sure, why not? I just wasn't ready to give him $35,000 raise.
Okay. Any other discussion on the amendment? Vote call on the amendment, please. For to $105,000.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Goffredo.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
No.
Mr. Brown.
No.
Passes by a vote of 6-2.
Thank you. Next, we will vote on the ordinance in its entirety as amended. Is there any other discussion on the ordinance before we vote? Call for the vote.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
No.
Mr. Brown.
No.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Goffredo.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 6-2.
Thank you. Nick, is there any other old business to discuss?
Excuse me, is there anything more to talk about with the worth of elected officials?
Maybe some people think we're worth nothing, and some people think we're worth everything.
Oh, I doubt that.
Listen, it's the job of council to do the budget, so there you go. Public hearing, ordinance is done. Any no old business, new business, consideration of county executives' appointments, resolution, Drug and Alcohol Advisory Board and the Jail Advisory Board. Mr. Heckman, will you?
All right, give me a
Present.
moment. Give me a moment, please. We didn't really have a
Do you want me to read it for
committee,
you?
so- No. I won't say it. All right, resolved by the Northampton County Council that the following individuals shall be confirmed in their appointments as indicated hereafter. Drug and Alcohol Advisory Board. Appointment, Neha Scandin, I hope I pronounced that right, 260 Hidden Hill Drive, Bethlehem, PA, term to expire 6/30/24. Jail Advisory Board, appointment, Joshua Robinson, 910 Lehigh Street, Easton, PA. Oh, what is it? Term to expire 12/31/23. So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Heckman. Are any of those folks here that wish to be recognized? Yes, Mr. Cusick.
I just had a question on the first one, Ms. Scandon. You know, the address clearly is in Northampton County, but her resume indicates that she's a clinical research assistant at Johns Hopkins. That's in Baltimore, last I checked. Is this a remote position, or is this an independent study going on someplace else? As soon as I saw that, I think I needed some clarification as to, is she living here full-time and commuting? I don't know. It raised some eyebrows for me.
It states that the graduation is expected in May 2025, so it doesn't clarify that, and she's not here to address those questions.
Sure is. She has a lot of experience.
Would you like to pull this one until we can get, I mean, we could certainly table this appointment to this, to, we
I
can
would-
get that answered?
Yeah, I would prefer that we table this one until we receive some clarification as to the availability. I mean, clearly, the resume is terrific.
I know, right?
But,
You're turning her away.
but, yeah, I mean, that's not the issue. I think I just need some clarification as to, I didn't know you could be a clinical research assistant and not live there at the hospital or on campus. So if this is some sort of independent study and she's here doing it, I think that's fine. But if she's a student at Johns Hopkins, living there some of the time, I think that raised some questions as to the availability to attend the meetings. That's my concern.
Procedure here. So is that a motion, or?
That was a long-winded comment.
So I would then I would make a motion to table that one until we receive further clarification about the availability of her.
Do I need a second on that?
I'll second it.
Call for the vote on tabling Ms. Scandon's appointment at this time.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes?
Mr. Gofredo.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
No.
Mr. Myers.
No.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
No.
Mr. Brown.
No.
Fails by a vote of 4 to 4.
Okay, so then we are
automatic,
voting
so-
on both appointments, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so are there any other discussion on both appointments? Yes.
Can I just say that I understand that it says Baltimore, Maryland. She does live in Hidden Hills. And academia has very much transitioned to online and remote learning. My son is literally taking classes at American, lives in Baltimore. Everything's online. I would think that Neha had been vetted before. I understand that you want clarification, but I don't think that she would agree to take this position if she didn't think that she could make the meetings, understanding the commitment. And I am looking at her resume, and I have never seen a more qualified individual to inform the Drug and Alcohol Advisory Board. And most of these board meetings are remote as well, I think, or could be. A lot of the meetings that I attend are hybrid as well. So I'm going to be voting for Neha Scandon because she looks like the most qualified individual we have ever put on that board.
Are the meetings remote?
You don't know?
We don't know. And you don't know if she lives here.
Her address says Hidden Hills. That's what it says.
Does she live here right now?
Can't answer that.
So I think that was why I thought it was a reasonable request, just to find out, because I don't think it should be an assumption, but.
The drug and alcohol use meetings used to be in person. I don't know if they're still in person or not since COVID. I'm sure during COVID there was some online. I'm not sure if they're hybrid at this point, and there's nobody here that can answer that question.
So we voting on both of them?
Yes. You are. Call for the vote.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Brown? Yes. Mr. Kuzic?
I'm voting present.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo?
I don't know what that means, but I'll vote present as well.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Resolution's adopted by a vote to 6 to 2 present.
Silliness. Next, we have the consideration of a Department of Court Administration position creation, court reporting monitors resolution. Mr. Heckman, will you introduce the resolution?
Okay, continuing our efforts on pay and personnel and wanting better elected officials. I have, there's a few things, but we'll start with,
Which one first?
well, the first one is the court administration position, court reporting monitors. Let me just read it, and then we have the director here. It is hereby resolved by the Northampton County Council that the 3 full-time position of court reporting monitors, pay grade CN 21-1A, salary $39,313, a total of $117,939, shall be created in the Department of Court Administration effective September 16th, 2022. You have I believe you have the sheet with it.
Yes.
And you also have Mr. Green here to, I'm sure, either explain or answer any questions.
Yeah, I sent the justifications up to council, and I sent the request up to Human Resources in my normal fashion that I've done for years now. And I know there was some confusion, but usually a week prior, I'll call Linda, make sure everything's okay. We got the financials. I know Linda talked to some officials and said everything was good. And then I got my request back that it was not recommended for some reason about the budgetary process from the executive. So I am here today to present my case about the court monitors, and the reason why the court needs these positions is because right now we are down 3 positions of official court reporters. Official court reporters is not just a problem in Northampton County, it's a problem in the nation. I've talked to our court reporters. There's a lack of schools. There's a lack of training in the profession. And right now, it's a suffering profession. But court reporters are very important. And for our court in particular, I can speak for in particular, they are the foundation of our court. We are a court of record. We need them there. Right now, we do not have enough court reporters to cover all the judges. We had a recent retirement of Ms. Karen Mango, who's been with us for over 30 years, done a great job for us. She still comes back and helps us when we're in a position, of not having enough court reporters to cover the judges. Right now, the Honorable Judge Slepwell does not have a court reporter at this point. So I have put this off as long as I could, and this is something I should have done. I procrastinated this for about 2 years. So I've been doing a lot of research. I've had some help from our lead court reporter, Moira Evans, who is here. You just approved her position a couple months ago, knowing that I needed her help. And she does a wonderful job, as of the other 7 court reporters behind me right here. Like I said, they are our foundation and they are wonderful. We couldn't do our job without them. But we are realizing now we have to pivot, because we've had these positions open. The one position we had the retirement, but the two before that were probably a year and a half, 2 years we've been vacant on the positions. So we can't fill it. And the reason is pay. We're not competitive. I can tell you right now, Montour County, Columbia County, Luzerne County just increased their salaries 40% for court reporters. Lehigh County just increased theirs to $57,000. Our court reporters right now are making 45. They start out at 45. We can't compete. We advertise with the National Court Reporter Association. We have it out there. We have gotten bites. People have come in. And Moira and some other court reporters will meet with them. They're qualified, and they hear the salary, and they say, I can't work for that. And I don't blame them. So I acknowledge I have a responsibility as a district court administrator. I have to make sure we have coverage in the courts. I would rather have live court reporters. I'd rather have 3 more people here with them, and the judges would rather have that. But I acknowledge I have to pivot and make other resources available. And what the nation courts are using, the state courts, municipalities, federal courts, they are using court monitors now. And what that is an audio system that if it was here, it would be recording everything we're saying. And then there would be a monitor, which would be the person taking this position. They would be identifying each of you, and then it would come on their screen, and then they would be able to hear what's going on to make sure it's clear, concise audio going into the headphones. And then at the end, they can dictate that out as a transcript. And that's what we need to move to. So I need 3 of those positions. I can't wait. I can't wait to January because I know the executive is saying that it should go through the budgetary process. I'm subverting the budget process, and I don't agree with that, okay? I do not agree with that. Now, I understand there may be a danger if I don't have the money if I fill these positions, but we're not going to fill these positions. And if we happen to fill those positions, I will come back before this council and ask for an amendment, okay? That's what I would do. So that is my presentation on that. I have Moyer here. Go ahead, Madam President.
So could you just repeat the last comment you made? You said you said
The budgetary process.
I'm not going to fill these positions?
No, I would rather fill these positions. I'd rather fill, if
Do you have the money in your budget?
I do, because I have vacant positions, 3 right now, that I can shift that money to these positions. Now, if I happen to fill those positions by next year, I could come back and ask for an amendment, but that's not going to happen. The trend tells us it's not going to happen. I have these positions for 3 years already. I can't fill them because we're not competitive. They're not going to be filled. If you have questions specifically about court reporters in the profession, I have Moyer here, and she would like to speak on that. She's been with us for 22 years. So she has seen the transition. She has seen how we've ebbed and flowed. She talks to other court reporters in other jurisdictions. So she can answer about their profession specifically. But if you have questions about the monitor position, I'd take those now.
Mr. Meyer?
I would like to hear from your staff.
Of course, absolutely. Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Green.
You're welcome.
You want to move the mic down for it? She's not as tall as
And
you are.
she can state your name
good?
again, please.
Yes,
for-
my name's Moira Evans. It's, I'm, like Mr. Green said, I'm the chief court reporter. I didn't realize tonight that, until this morning, actually, that there was gonna be this bid and, hopefully it's gonna lead to some kind of help, countywide, not just for the court reporters, to increase, our salaries. So, we're heartened by that fact, but so I just I have a little speech. I don't, I want to read it. I wish I could stand here and speak extemporaneously, but I don't want to forget anything, so I'm just going to refer and read from my notes. So again, as I said, my name is Moira Evans. I'm the chief court reporter, and I'm here to bring your attention tonight to some things that the court reporters really need you to know. As Mr. Green said, all of the court reporters are here. We are a small group. We've gotten smaller, but we're all here tonight because we want to underscore just how vitally important this topic is for us. I've been a reporter now for 34 years, and I previously worked in Lehigh County before coming here over 21 years ago to what at that time was a better opportunity, a better work environment, better pay. To a court reporter at that time, Northampton County was the place to be. And, you know, people in our industry say that we have the best job that you've never heard of. Not a lot of people can actually say they know what we do. You're the person that sits in the courtroom and does this. Yeah, well, that's what we do, but it's far and away more involved than that. In fact, let me point to Solicitor Spadoni and say that surely he has an appreciation for what we do. As a lawyer, he's witnessed and directly benefited from our skill set. And in fact, our own county executive, in his previous capacity as an asbestos litigation attorney, saw us in action firsthand. We produced expedited copies for him during his trials. The testimony we took one day, he had the next. And what an asset that quick turnaround transcripts were to him in furthering his case. The diligent court reporters of this county, as Mr. Green said, are the backbone of the judicial system. We work long hours protecting the record in the courtroom, only to turn around and work nights, weekends, holidays, and vacations to produce the high-quality transcripts that the judges, lawyers, and public need in furtherance of their cases. We do it with pride, but we also do it out of necessity. The lack of court reporters here has created a strain on the staff, so we have almost no time out of court to produce these transcripts, and so we have to work after hours. We sacrifice our free time and our family time, our health, to keep up with the demands of the court. Tonight, Mr. Green is here asking for your consideration for 3 court monitoring positions. While I would rather not stand here and endorse that request, I have to reluctantly acquiesce and say that the creation of these positions will help bridge the gap in our unfilled court reporting positions. And that brings me to the fundamental reason for my appearance tonight, and that's money. You know, as Mr. Gaffredo said, right, everyone's coming in here and asking for more money. So I feel what I'm about to say is almost tantamount, to begging almost. We're currently missing 30% of our staff. We have more judges than we have reporters. A few moments ago when I said I left Lehigh County to come here for a better opportunity, unfortunately, that doesn't remain the case. Lehigh County, which is also a third-class county just like us, our neighboring county, a county that has the same union, their reporters make $10,000 more in a starting salary. The top of their pay grade eclipses us by $17,000. $17,000. Also, as Mr. Green said, in Columbia-Montour County, their commissioners approved raising the starting salary of their reporters by 40% to compete with the larger surrounding counties vying for the same applicants. That's a quote, actually, from an article in the AOPC newsletter. Not only are we being paid less than the other third-class counties, we're losing out on qualified individuals who can literally drive down Route 22 and get paid more. We're at a point where we have to bring in an alternative method of capturing the record with court monitors because we aren't competitive enough when it comes to salary to attract applicants. I have personally interviewed several candidates for the open positions, only for them to take some time and turn around and just tell me that they're accepting positions elsewhere with higher starting salaries. We aren't, though, just sitting back on our heels and hoping for change. Several of us have met with and worked with Lehigh County Community College to help implement a court reporting program. It's in its infancy, but we have great hope that it will pick up. Another of our reporters here tonight, Charlene Iyer, she has been in communication with the Community College of Allegheny County's court reporting program. She's been trying to recruit graduates and offering to mentor students close to graduating. Actually, there are several court reporting schools that are actually filled with students. We're trying to communicate with those schools, let them know what a great place Northampton County could be and that we desperately need them to come work here. Mr. Green actually has sanctioned, and the reporters are about to begin teaching what's called the A to Z program. This program was created by the National Court Reporters Association and is an 8-week class that introduces interested individuals to the industry. It will be led by the reporters here, and it will foster interest, and we hope lead to student enrollment in future court reporting programs. In fact, we have 2 people who are interested right now that are going to start this A to Z program at the beginning of October, so we hope to get more. The reporters here are, like so many of us, in negotiations for a new and better contract, so there's really no getting around that. But despite what occurs during this process, a spotlight needs to be placed on just what a crisis this is for the reporters. For the reporters and the employees countywide. At a very minimum, the job classification and salary study needs to occur again. And I know exactly what, this meeting or this evening started out with. So, court reporters are often thought of as the silent people in the room, but we can no longer stay silent and let the potential for high-quality candidates slip through our fingers to higher paying counties. The schools are filled with students learning reporting, but we can't entice them to come here at the current salary level. I have read that Northampton County is the 7th best county in Pennsylvania for young professionals. Well, we need to make the county itself the best place in PA to work for young professionals. We need to restore this county to what I feel it once was, the reason why I left Lehigh County in the first place, and make it a place where employees and reporters alike have to compete for a job here. I thank you so much for your time, and if you do have questions about court reporting, I'd be glad to answer them.
Are there any questions for her for on-court reporting?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Oh, may I go?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, yeah, it's on. Well, Moya, thank you for your service, 4 years. And Charlie, what's I'm sure you have a fair amount of experience with the people that are still doing it.
That are still
Yeah,
court
like
reporting.
Shirley, do they have?
Yes.
You've been here how many years?
I've been here twice.
Twice. So she's come
So
back.
it's a combination of 13 and 7. So
Okay, okay, 20.
And Jane Walker, Jane?
I've been a court reporter since '84.
Oh, my,
I've been here 20 plus.
38 years.
Freelance 15 before that.
okay. John will do the math then. But
You won't tell us the answer.
anyway, I want to thank you. When I was speaking earlier about experience, you are exemplifying what we need. We need people who will come in and stay at all levels. And you say about silent, and that also relates to what I was saying. I mean, most of the heavy lifting in this county gets done by the silent employees. I'm sure in the courtroom, lawyers like Mr. Spadoni and the judges do all the talking that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So it's critical. And I had a question, so thank you. And I mean, these jobs, if they get approved for the court reporting monitors, but you're saying this is almost like you're hoping you'd rather have court reporters.
Right.
But let's say court reporters come along. Would you still, I mean, would you still need these, or you're hoping that one day you won't need court reporting monitors?
Hoping either way.
Either way.
Okay, either way, if we can't get the salaries increased, I may need more court monitors because, like you heard, Jane's been here, she may be
Oh, no,
retired.
yeah. And
Okay,
there's
so-
people around yet. People don't realize there are people in the county
Right.
that have been around for a long, long time. And they think because we hear a lot, everybody's new in and out the door. So I do appreciate the service. I mean, and to me, that's very important.
But what I would say, Mr. Heckman, is if we can increase the salaries first, okay? And then we have a good pool of people coming in and applicants that are willing to be official court reporters. I will come back before this council and I will get rid of those positions.
Well, and again, and not necessarily,
And that's what I would do.
not necessarily the people.
No,
but
not the
get rid of-
people, those positions, but the people we would be able to move them.
This is almost like, it's you mentioned, it's a necessity.
Correct.
Because of the reality of the situation you're now facing.
Correct. They're going to complement our court reporters.
All right.
And I was straight with our court reporters. I said, look, I know they're very territorial. I understand. I said, listen, this is not to replace you. This is to help you. And, it took a lot of convincing, because I have eight ladies, and they were like looking at me with the hairy eye and said, hey, look, you're not going to replace us.
Yeah.
I know. So it's like having 8 wives and looking at me at the same time.
It's going down to.
So I said, it's not to replace you, it's to complement you. And that's what this is. We took a trip to Lehigh County, Moira, myself, and Nicole, and they have 5 court monitors right now?
I think it
They
is
have 5 court monitors there. All their courtrooms are wired up with this system, the FTR system.
What do the judges think of that?
Huh?
What do the judge, because I would think the judges love to keep
They
things.
do.
What do they think of your idea?
Yeah. No, they were first reluctant as well, but then they acknowledged the need as well.
Okay.
So the judge in Lehigh County, Judge Johnson, he took on the court monitor and he said he doesn't even know the difference now. He doesn't know the difference of court monitor or the court reporter because they're complementing that well together. Okay?
Thank you. That
I
answered
have
my
a
question.
question. You're currently negotiating, you said?
Yes.
So what union are you in?
They're an Ask Me.
They're in a court-appointed non-professional.
Yeah.
They're in a court-appointed non-professional.
And have you personally or any of your staff worked with monitors in any other venue other than?
I personally, when I worked in Lehigh County, they had them many years ago as well. Through attrition, they got rid of, I shouldn't say got rid of, through attrition, court monitors were replaced back with court reporters. And that's the hope, that's the goal, that's the overarching goal. What we're doing here is to continue to educate, get the schools filled up, and have it trend back to being court reporters, and no longer, again, a need for the court monitors.
Are there going to be any additional costs, such as, like you mentioned,
I was going to ask.
some software or some kind of program that?
No, because our IT department, the system that we have in the audio system, we are great that it can pick it all up. There's going to be minimal cost for the software, like a yearly subscription, but it's a minimal cost. The bulk of the cost is wiring the courtrooms, and we already had that taken care of because the IT department has been upgrading our courtrooms. And the courtrooms we want to put in are upgraded right now, so those costs are, are moved. All right. But one of the things I was going to ask for with this school, I may need to ask for some funds if they're running the school. If they're going to be doing overtime training people, I may need to pay them some overtime. So I would bring that to council. If it becomes burdensome, something that I don't have in my budget, I will come back before you and say I need some more money for them to run the school, recruit people, et cetera.
So what happens if we said no tonight and you do have to wait on the budget process? How would that affect the work that you're doing now? And I think she can answer that more than you.
Well,
No offense.
No, go ahead.
It continues to put a strain on the court reporters that are here. Like Mr. Green said, we currently have 9 judges and we have 8 court reporters. So on a busy day, like a Wednesday miscellaneous court, we literally have a judge uncovered. We do have, a retired reporter who comes back, but she's only willing or able to give us so much time. There are extraneous places where court reporters are needed, such as covering Gagnon hearings, or if a senior judge comes in, that's another thing that I have to juggle to get coverage for. Those positions, again, while we don't love that we have to ask for it, it will be, a Band-Aid and help us on a daily basis to make sure that, no judge has to stand down because now we don't have enough court reporters to cover court.
Or the community that doesn't have access to the court. That's the biggest thing. That's the problem.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Thanks.
I do too, but I don't know how to phrase it, so go ahead.
Okay. Ms. Fargo Hefner asked whether you were, sorry. Madam President asked whether you were union.
I am now the chief court reporter, so I am considered career service just as of a few
So
weeks
you're
ago.
career service.
I'm career service.
And
The
is-
rest of them are union.
All of them are union. And this monitor position, would this be union or non-union? Or the career service? I know, it gets sticky then, because if it's union, I don't think we can vote on it, right? Because,
That's not true. Why can't you vote on it?
It's a new position.
well, I guess, okay, hold on.
Creating a position.
Oh, it's creating, okay, but I guess where I think it starts to get sticky
about
is,
salaries, increasing
does
salaries.
does having monitors somehow infringe on the contracts that the other unionized workers have?
No.
Because it would seem, to me, it would seem that somewhere in a contract for a union employee who's making a salary, that this would somehow be competitive, because now the monitor who is not in the union, it would compete with them.
No, why was that? We have a probation officer. No, we have, if we.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
If we have probation officer ones and probation officer twos, it's the same thing.
No, I
How is that-
understand.
But if they were in if they were in the union, why would that be an infringement on these reporters?
Well, I'm asking because I don't want to do something that is infringing upon a union contract that exists now. I'm not disagreeing that you need these things. I'm not saying that this would not be a good solution. I just want to make sure that we're able to do these things.
Tara, you have a solicitor to ask that question.
What questions for our solicitor?
Okay.
Go.
Well, then I will ask our solicitor, although Ms. Rudas did say that she had some
You
clarification.
have a solicitor to ask. This is
Okay.
our solicitor.
Okay.
Let me just weigh in after, and I get some leeway being a lawyer for 46 years.
Listen, no disrespect. You got this. I got you.
Quiet.
That being said, Ms. Rudis and myself are in this building repeatedly. We sometimes talk as a council about core functions. What hasn't been touched on in my analysis enough is that this is for the public. You need to have this done for people, A, to have their cases heard, and most importantly, to have a record of their cases, because they go other places, whether it's a PFA, whether it's an appeal to the Superior Court, whether it's an appeal to the Commonwealth Court. And I would say that in my experience, which I would say is pretty large, I have never had a problem with the court reporters that I'm hearing about today, that they're stressed. They're good, they get your records on time, and the client is served, and the public is served in the administration of justice.
That wasn't my question. My
Okay.
question was about union contracts and potentially not being able to create these positions because they're competitive with the existing union employees.
There's no competition
There's no
here.
competition. Where's the competition?
Mr. Spadoni, does county council have the authority and to create these positions?
Yes, and I need to be transparent here. I have talked with Director Green prior to today, and he has informed me that he has the money in his budget.
Yeah. I heard that too. And I'm not saying that these aren't important. I'm concerned that there exist union and non-union employees.
There's not union, non-union. Moira is their supervisor. She's non-union. The rest of them are union, and these employees will be union as well.
These will be union
Yes.
as well.
So there is no competition. Like I said, they're complementing each other. And Moira is going to be supervising each one of them.
Yeah, I'm just asking for
That's all.
clarification on this.
But no, I'm just trying to
But I wanna
understand where you're saying
understand
there's
how
competition. I don't understand that. That's what I'm not understanding. There's no competition because they're the same. It's like having a probation officer one and a probation officer two.
Okay, if this person is getting paid significantly less than a court reporter, though, there would be motivation to hire more of these and less of them.
No,
I'm just saying.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. In a union contract, if I was negotiating that, I would be like, we are not having monitors. We are having real people, and I get that you.
But we
get
can't.
that.
We
I get
can't,
it.
we can't hire them.
But
We
that's what
want
I'm
real
saying.
people.
In the contract,
I
does it say
understand.
this? This is where I'm trying to
I
get that
understand.
clarification. In the contract, does it say anything about that?
Not that I know of. I've created positions of,
I will hear you.
go ahead.
Are we allowed to have her speak?
Let the solicitor weigh in if she wants to.
Ms.
you can do
Rudis
it.
is recognized.
Because they're union, you can create the positions. You cannot set their salary. The salary and benefits have to be negotiated. And that is usually done through an MOU with the union. But you cannot set the salary because of the union. But you
So-
can create the positions.
Right, so we can vote on the
So,
creation
wait a
of
minute, wait a
position,
minute.
but not
So,
the salary.
Wait a minute, Ms. Zirinsky. So she's saying something that's directly opposite of what our solicitor is saying. So that needs to be addressed.
There is a proposal from the director, and he has given you the numbers, and I have spoken with him previously that there is no further allocation of money. He has it in his budget. That is a matter for the director with fiscal operations.
It's union, you can't do that. There's a union contract.
So if there's no position, how is it a union contract?
I'm sorry.
If there's no position,
If you bring these people and you create the position and they're union, and that's fine. If we need the position, we need the position. You just can't set the salary. That's gonna have to be negotiated with the union.
So do we make them career service?
that's,
Make them career service.
Why
that's up
can't
to
we,
you.
Make them career service.
why can't we keep
Wait,
them
Ms.
union?
Zirinsky,
Listen,
at this point, let's just get some clarity here. Mr. Myers has been waiting. I recognize Ms. Rudis. We have two divergent solicitor opinions. And the thing, I guess the issue here is that everybody else has been waiting to be heard. This is not like, let's fix the problem. Let's get everybody's needs out on the table. Mr. Myers. You're recognized.
Why, thank you, Madam President. Clarity. So I'm not confused here. You have the money in your budget,
yes, Mr. Myers.
and because you have money in your budget, and we really can't do a lot about this if we get a court order saying these positions are going to be filled, and the president judge comes to us and hits us like he did last time, this will be a moot point. Am I correct? Is that a possibility?
It's a possibility. I wanted to come here like I always do, get these approved, and then we do the orders. I just don't understand.
Well,
If I
here-
have the money in the budget, why does the executive,
But,
or why does the administration care? I'm not coming to ask you for additional monies. I have the money in my budget. I have a need.
here's where I didn't want to cut you off. I'm hearing your need. I'm hearing the people behind you tell us the need.
Correct.
You're down one court reporter for a judge.
Yes, but I'm down a total of 3 court reporters.
I'm hearing that too. I am at the point right now that I feel for you, Mr. Green, because every time you have a proposal, you get rung through the coals.
Look, you see the proverbial hoop? I'm jumping through that hoop again.
I've never.
All the time.
In my life, and I've been involved in other boards and been elected to other positions, I've never seen anybody have to go through, justify so much as you do, and I don't understand what this is all about. I hear the need, and the people behind you are telling us we need help. And it's a cry throughout this county. This is becoming scary. And we're made out to be the bad guy. I'm sitting there looking at notes for each one you did, and we're being told not to recommend this. But you have the money, and I don't understand where we're going with this. And Mr. Solicitor, if
That's not what-
I'm talking to our solicitor at this point. If we vote on these and they're fine, are we okay, or are we jeopardizing anything? Did we cause a labor issue?
No.
Because we're creating the positions?
I want to be clear on this. It is before you, and I have signed off on this. I understand Ms. Rudis's opinion is diametrically opposed to what I've told you.
So from your standpoint, you're our counsel, we'll follow your lead. Okay, thank you. I'm done, Madam President.
Thank you. And I just want to ask a question of Mr. Green. So these salaries,
Yes.
who created and these salaries? Did you create these salaries on your own, or did this go through HR?
Went through
the
HR.
So
HR
the
and-
administration has created these salaries.
Correct. I sent them to Mary Lou
So they did that
Cavalli.
in line and with the expectation that they would be part of what is already existing in the union at this time?
Yes, I sent them to Mary Lou Cavalli. I
right.
sent them to her office. She gave the numbers to Linda, and then that's what happened, and that's what I got back. And I got that salary because that's what Lehigh County is paying their monitors.
Okay.
That's how I came up with that. I did my research.
Mr. Cusick?
Just a quick comment. You know, there's no more core function than a court reporter.
Exactly.
I can't think of a more core county function than a court reporter. I don't know why we're even debating this. And I want to thank those of you that came. And when I heard you're in the non-professionals, I know that's a classification, but to call you guys non-professionals is a joke. Yeah. I mean, you are the core and the backbone of the court system. So you are certainly professionals. And usually I'm kind of a pain about, bringing stuff up before the budget comes out.
Right.
But when I heard that there's a judge without a court reporter, that's desperate. I mean, we had the DA in here, what was it, last month? Giving bonuses because he can't keep enough staff.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm going to wholeheartedly support this, and if we
appreciate
need to
that.
raise the salaries or offer a bonus to hire people, that's what we have to do, because this is a core county function. Whether they're union or non-union, at this point, I don't care. A judge needs a court reporter. Thank you.
Mr. Gafredo?
We said when we were talking about the pay study how there might be winners and there might be losers. I think it's pretty clear you ladies will, in my opinion, I would think that you guys will be winners in that regard. It disheartens me to hear that Northampton County isn't a bright spot in places to work. And to what Mr. Kusick was saying, not only is a court reporter a core function, but the courthouse and what you guys do in the courthouse, it's the core function of county government. That is, there's a lot of, debatable departments of, what we do. You guys are essential, so I will absolutely be supporting this, and anything you guys can, come to us, I hope we can be more than helpful again in the future.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Fredo.
Mr. Heckman?
Yeah, I mean, we had this before, we worked on it tonight with the pay, and it's come up in the past, I'm sure Mr. Kusick could tell you, this is nothing new. We get into the intricacies of who has what authority and who's to do this and who can't do that. And we're not a court, we're not lawyers, well, there's a couple in the room, but we don't make judicial decisions, we legislate. And if our legislative actions, I still believe it, even though my solicitor, is cloaked in the presumption of legality until proven otherwise. I still like that phrase. If we create these, and we've created a huge problem, and the administration says, oh my God, you've broken 7 laws, then they can take it in front of a judge. I mean, you guys are now you'll have somebody to record it. So the thing is,
I can get it
I mean,
out of
I do agree in principle about the pay, and I don't need another letter from Mr. Santee. I think that, yes, but we have to be careful we don't get too caught up in who, every time we talk about something, it might be, well, you're infringing on union management negotiations, then take me to court. At the end of the day, I believe I have a job to do here. I listen to everybody. I make a call. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not the court. I don't want to be the court. And if it's wrong, somebody above me in pay grade will say that and do it and fix it, and then that'll be that. But I mean, based on what you said, this sounds like a critical need.
Yes.
That is needed right now. As Mr. Kusick said, this is one of the most core functions of the county. People coming in, as I mentioned, if they don't get this right. And by the way, I've been in few investigative hearings in the county council has in our charter. And they had to come in and they were doing the whole thing. And that's when I learned, I go, and every grunt I made, was recorded. It lets you know how terrible you sound when they record it. sound for sound. But let me just say this. I don't know if the union's going to be upset or they're going to come in and complain. I think the charter says we have the right to create a position.
Right.
We don't set salaries. I get that. You have a recommendation for a salary. It was written up here on the sheet that was given to us. I'm going to support it. I see the need. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
But may
Thank
I
you.
just, I mean, just in May, we created the youth care workers down at the juvenile center. We did that. They were a part of the union. So where were they? Where's the consistency here? They didn't say anything about that, and they were approved.
Mr. Spadoni.
For council's information, I discussed this matter with Director Green, and I told him that he needed to go to the Human Resources Director, and he did that. And here we are again. For whatever reason, but there is a note not recommended. This should be subject to budget process, signed by the executive McClure.
No,
we are.
it's, there's a reason, you know. First, it's I'm poaching, now I'm subverting. It's just negative connotations when it comes to Jermaine Green.
Ms.
So-
Zirinsky.
I just want to say, again, to clarify that I am not against this, that I am definitely
got it.
aware that court reporters are important. There's no one who knows that court reporters are more important, right, Melissa? But my thing is why can't we just reword this a little bit to make sure we cover all of our bases? What if we said that these monitors will be union workers with a recommended or a suggested pay rate pending negotiating, pending contract, pending union contract, some sort of language like that, so we cover all our bases in the resolution and make sure we can get your monitors for you.
No, I don't agree with it. I was back here in March, and I asked for the youth care workers, for the county to get to the table with them. They didn't go for 4 months. I don't have 4 months, Mr. Zirinsky. I'm sorry to wait for a union contract. If I have the right to create these positions right now, I'd like to move to create these positions and have council vote on it.
So that's what it's really about, is that the timing for the
It
negotiations.
is. I mean, think about it. The negotiations, how long is that gonna take? That's gonna take, I was here in March about the youth care workers, and the executive and his team said they were gonna get to the table with the union right away. It took them 3.5 months to get to the table.
I'd like to
So
call
Ms.
the
Evans,
question.
I'd like.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to just give Ms. Evans the last word. She jumped up, and so go ahead.
Thank you.
You get the last
Oh,
word.
thank you so much. This is unfamiliar territory. We're precarious. Like, at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. Like, if COVID has taught us nothing, you know, the majority of these ladies share a suite together. If one of them gets COVID, 2 of them get COVID, you literally cannot run the court system. There is no other department within this county that cannot run if you don't have the employees there. Like, there'd be no court. You know, people's time deadlines, you know, people's liberty is literally at stake. If we don't get some help, you know, we're driving ourselves into the ground right now, trying to keep up with the demand. And again, if tomorrow we could all be career service, we would want that, because we feel like we are in a group that we do not belong. Thank you for saying, you know, about the paraprofessional. We do have educations. We didn't just create court reporting by ourselves. You know, we all went to school to do it. You know, but at the end of the day, like, I don't know if tomorrow 2 people call off sick, that cripples us. We literally cannot work without having the extra staff. And again, this is a bridge. You know, we are working very diligently to make sure that we produce new baby court reporters. No other department is working on making, you know, new little probation officers. We're willing to put in the time to train people, to go to the schools, to get the word out about what court reporting is. And we would just, you know, like the help in the meantime while we do it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The question has been called. Let's call for the vote.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Can you circle back to me?
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Vote yes.
Yes? Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Next, we have the consideration of a Department of Court Administration position creation court report. Oh, sorry, I forgot. We're not doing that again. I apologize.
Oh, please.
We have the consideration of a Department of Court Administration position creation jury clerk assistant resolution. Mr. Heckman?
Yes, it is hereby resolved by
Thank
the
you, ladies.
Northampton County Council that one full-time position of jury clerk assistant, pay grade CN 15-1A, salary $29,825, shall be created in the Department of Court Administration effective September 16th, 2022. So moved, and Mr. Green is still here.
Okay.
Jury clerk, yep. We need a jury clerk assistant because we're having a lot of trials. The full-time jury clerk there needs some help. And this position, actually, I'm using existing resources. I am eliminated one in domestic relations. It's the same grade, same pay rate. I'm just shifting it to the jury clerk. That's all I'm doing. So there is no cost to the county, doesn't affect my budget at all. It's the same thing. I'm using existing resources that we have after looking at our positions that we didn't need in domestic relations.
All right, Ms. Zimbo, just, are you eliminating a position to create this one?
Yes,
So do I need to reverse the order? Or can I?
it's the intake specialist and
The next resolution is the elimination of this position. Do we need to do that one first before we create this one, or it doesn't make a difference?
Mr.
You probably should do the elimination first so that it's a zero-sum game.
So can I hold on this one? And can I move to the consideration of a Department of Court Administration position elimination, domestic relations resolution? So would you introduce that, and then we will circle back? Yes, sir, Mr. Brown?
Just a point of order here.
Yes, sir.
If we proceed as recommended and we eliminate the position and then fail to approve the new position, which could technically happen, then we're hamstringing the court again. So I would propose
That we stay the
in order
course?
that we originally to grant that, and I think there's less harm that could be done if we fail to eliminate the position.
Thank you very much. Point well taken. And so we're back to the consideration of a Department of Court Administration jury clerk assistant resolution. So, is there any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, call for the vote. Thank you.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Now we'll consider the Department of Court Administration position elimination, domestic relations resolution. Mr. Heckman.
Okay. It is hereby resolved by the Northampton County Council that the one full-time position of intake technician 1, pay grade CN 15-1A, salary $29,825, shall be eliminated in the Department of Court Administration, Domestic Relations, effective September 16th, 2022. So moved.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. Did we cover everything for you this evening? All right, good. Then next, we're considering a Department of Corrections position creation resolution. Mr. Heckman, will you introduce this?
Certainly. It is hereby resolved by Northampton County Council that one full-time position of corrections supervisor, lieutenant, pay grade CS 25, salary $55,419, shall be eliminated in the Department of Corrections effective September 16, 2020. it's getting late, I guess. Effective September 16th, 2022. It is further resolved by the Northampton County Council that one full-time position of corrections supervisor, Sergeant pay grade CS 24-1A, salary $52,925, shall be created in the Department of Corrections effective September 16th, 2022. So moved.
Thank you. Mr. Costor is here to address any questions that we have, or do you want to speak to this briefly?
Good evening.
Or as long as you want, because everybody else took their time tonight.
No, it's very similar to previous. I am looking to shore up the ranking system at the prison. It's a need for a sergeant's position, one we do not have. I have mid-level positions of lieutenants. They're mid-level shift supervisors, pay grade 25. I have 14. I'm looking to drop one of them, to eliminate. I'm trying to, through attrition, and I'm just trying to upgrade the sergeant's position. I think it's something that the prison has needed, and we do not have. We do not have a lower ranking sergeant, a floor sergeant, and it's very much what we need there.
Okay. Any other, Mr. Myers?
So you're eliminating and creating a different one with a surplus of a couple thousand?
It's in a negative, yes.
And this is definitely, did your lieutenant retire? Is that what,
I had a lieutenant retire through attrition, yes.
that was my question. I was wondering why we were eliminating it. Okay,
Yes.
I got no problem with that.
Any other questions? Comment? Mr. Cusick?
Just a comment. I don't necessarily have a problem with this. What you're proposing makes sense. I think what troubles me more is that, you know, the courts came here with, you know, creation, eliminating position, and the county executive chose to stand in the way. And again, no one is more of a pain in the ass than I am when it comes to going through the normal budget process.
Can we quote that?
And this, to me, is something that could probably go through the normal budget process without jeopardizing the public or the execution of justice. I shouldn't use execution. But either way, I mean, I think what troubles me is the lack of consistency. If you're going to say this to the court system, that here's a core function that you should wait, well, don't turn around and say, well, whether it's a lieutenant or a sergeant, yeah, I understand why you're doing it. I don't think it's wrong. But to me, this could probably wait, as certainly, unlike the court, I think that was much more urgent. But I'll support this because maybe I'm getting old here. But again, this is not urgent. I agree it should be done, but this probably should have been done through the budget process rather than now. So thank you.
Thank you for your point, Mr. Cusick. Anything, yes, Mr. Heckman, not to be.
I'll say this, I've
Ignore
said it before. Yeah, usually we have said about jobs, if you get this late in the year, we should wait for the budget. But as a matter of consistency with tonight, I'm certainly going to support this. And I'll just say that the only precedent I've observed over my time is that there are no precedents when we do things sometimes. So I'm welcome in supporting this. This is fine. You got to run your department.
Just one comment.
Yes, sir.
In closing, this is such a double standard that it's sad. We just spent 45 minutes on something that we just approved here, we'll be approving here in 5. We really need to clean up our act, you know, and get this place in order.
Well, and I think that part of the issue is it's either yes or no, I support or I don't, but the disparaging comments that are written on these resolutions is troublesome to me. And again, no disrespect to Mr. Costor, who's very patiently waited here this evening, so why don't we move to pass this, and then we could have some discussion on that matter. But I agree, because the comments were on there creates the question of, are we allowed to do this or not? When we've done this for how many years, without question? We've created, we've eliminated, we've never magnified it as much as we did tonight. And so it is disheartening. Is there anything else to discuss on this position for Mr. Costor? Call for the vote.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
You got one last.
Next, we have the consideration of a DOTS grant submission authorization resolution. Mr. Giovanni, will you introduce this?
Yes, I will, Mr. President. Whereas the city of Bethlehem has requested the county to use the DOT grant online system to submit a request to receive an application for federal fiscal year 2023 community traffic safety grant funding on their behalf. It is therefore resolved that the Northampton County Council authorize Mr. Anthony Morris, authorized official, to make a request to receive and submit an application through the DOT grant online system.
Thank you. Any discussion on this? Call for the vote.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Is there any other new business to discuss?
I have a question.
sir.
I see Mr. Barron's been waiting patiently. Question was raised, I asked our clerk, has the Q2 fiscal report been completed? And if so, we have yet to receive it.
You should see the Q2 report in a week or so. We're finishing up the single line audit that is due by the end of the month for October 1st. So that kind of Q2 got put on the back burner because we had to give some information to the external auditors for the single audit report.
Okay, thank you. That answers
I have
my
another question for you. When will we be receiving our copies of the budget? Do you have a date?
I will have to get back to I don't know when the county executive is going to be announcing his budget. There's home rule charter dates. I think one of them falls on the weekend, so I don't exactly know whether it's going to be before the weekend or after.
Okay, thank you.
Does that put a hold on our meetings for the budgets?
No. Any other new business? Any council committee reports? None, since we had none. Any council liaison reports? Ms. Zirinsky.
There was no CROSAB meeting this month. It was canceled. Farmland Preservation had a meeting. They are now at 18,646.04 acres on 240 farms preserved. I attended the Conservation District meeting and nothing very significant happened. I also attended a NACO EELU meeting where we talked about the Inflation Reduction Act. It's the largest single investment on climate, which is really important for our Energy, Environment, and Land Use Committee. And they discussed a lot of things, including PFAS and PFOA's designations that are coming out in a circular law. And I'm going to be hopefully talking about those more in a subsequent ELU meeting. We also had a karst geology meeting. PennDOT commented on the DEP's comments, or on Boozy's comments, and we have a little bit more clarification on the Bushkill Creek, which was great. I also attended the Lehigh Valley PC exec board meeting today, and they reported that the Nazareth Comprehensive Plan has been adopted and that the municipalities involved are going to be updating their plans. We agreed, or we voted on a lot of things, but one of the most significant things is a Lehigh Valley Regional Equity Housing Plan, and Mr. McClure announced that we will be unveiling a Northampton, plan, equity housing plan in October.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr.
It's important to point out, I think we all got it, that Mr. Seyfried's park dedication is coming up at the end of the month, and I'm sure he would be thrilled see all your faces there. So anyway, I just wanted to remind everyone.
I have two liaison reports. The GPA met bright and early Tuesday morning. We had an initial vision of the renderings of the Glendon Hotel property, but, which we haven't decided on a name. Glendon Heights, Glendon Views, but I don't think it's at our discretion to name things. My understanding is there's not necessarily any progress other than some visuals, and that they will be applying for state funding for the construction early next year. The Discover Lehigh Valley Board met on Tuesday. We reviewed the audit that was completed by Concannon Miller. There was a clean report, and they said when you're doing these things, it would be good if your goal was like 2-to-1 in liabilities. Well, they're 18-to-1, so they're above and beyond ahead of the curve. They have $4.3 million in assets. The PPP liability was forgiven, that our hotel tax money is on the increase. They are way over the expected budget. And again, Lehigh Valley is at the top of the market in the state in terms of occupancy to date. What I didn't know is that 36% of that money goes to LVEDC. So, you know, that was just a little factoid that was unknown to me until this meeting, but okay. But again, I just think the future looks bright for hotel tax. Next meeting will be a breakfast on November 1st at the Arts Quest Center at 8:30 in the morning. It will be an in-person. This was their first hybrid back to in-person. And that's all I
I
have.
have a question.
Yes.
When the discussion was about the Glendon and the units, was consideration given to naming it after Mr. Barron, since he was so instrumental in the very
It was
beginning
not
of this?
brought up, and we are still questioning the location of the Sprite
All right, just
sign.
curious.
Yeah, why don't we just name it the
Oh, I know, I
Sprite
should have
site?
I should have talked about the bridges. As far as the bridges during the GPA, we still have a few, one major one under construction this year, one not anticipated to start till next year, and the ever-famous, there are several punch list items waiting to be completed on 4 or 5 of the bridges. When I keep asking why that's not done, I keep not getting an answer, so. That's it. Is there any other liaison? Nope. Council clerk report.
Nothing.
Date of the first budget meeting pending. Have we agreed upon that? Okay, but just, FYI, it would be October 5th, which would be the day before our meeting, unless you hear otherwise. 4:30 start in this chamber. Mr. Solicitor, any report?
Nothing.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All in favor? Thank you.
Been here 20 years.
Yeah, I